Hello, Lovelace, and welcome to today's maths lesson, which today is all about fractions. We're moving on from our unit on division and multiplication, but that doesn't mean you can't keep practicing. Feel free to go back over the videos and explore any bits of the last couple of weeks learning that you weren't totally clear with. Okay, but for now, we're going to move on. We're going to be looking at fractions for the next couple of weeks. Now, fractions is a big topic. We can do all sorts of calculations, but today our focus is going to be what a fraction actually is. And so by the end of today's lesson, I hope everyone is going to be saying a big fat yes to, can I explain what a fraction is? Okay. Once we understand what they are, then it's going to make our life a lot easier when it comes to actually doing calculations with them. So let's have a look. We'll start with just some key vocabulary. These are words that are going to be thrown around for the next couple of weeks, certainly, and beyond. And there are three phrases or three words that it's important you try to remember. Okay? Now, first of all, we can see a fraction is presented as one number. In this case, it's a letter because we don't know what the number is yet, but one digit over another digit. So if you see a format like that, then you're looking at a fraction. Now, the number on top we call the numerator. Okay. Now, the numerator tells us how many of something, how many of the bits we're actually interested in, how many we're looking at. Okay. Now, that'll become clearer as we work our way through. I'll keep coming back to this language. We'll talk it throughout the lesson. The number on the bottom is called the denominator. Okay, and that tells us how many parts, how many equal parts something has been divided into. Okay? Really important, that word equal. And again, I will keep coming back to that. And finally, the term we use for the line in the middle is a fraction bar. And that simply separates the numerator from the denominator. Another way to think about a fraction is as a division. Basically, what we're saying here is A divided by B. A split up into B number of pieces. Okay. So for now, numerator on top, denominator on bottom, and the fraction bar is the line that splits them up. So 4 little quick questions. Now, if you're not sure about fractions at all, then we'll just go through them. You don't need to pause. But if you think you're quite confident, then pause the video now, have a quick go of these before we look at them together. Right, so number 1, what fraction is shaded? Now, we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal pieces. That means that our denominator, the bottom number, is going to be a 5 because we've split this bar into 5 pieces. 2 of them are shaded. So we're interested in 2 of them. So 2 out of 5 are shaded, and we would write that like that. Okay, so 2 have been shaded out of 5 equal pieces. The 5 tells us how many pieces, the 2 tells us how many are shaded. Now, question 2, is more or less than a third shaded? Now, this is where it's really, really important that you remember that fractions need to be equal sizes. Are these equal sizes? No, they're not. Okay, so this is quite a small bit. So even though we've got 3 pieces, because they're not equal, they're not thirds. So a third would be bigger than that. So is it more or less? It's less. So an actual third would be bigger than this is. But this isn't a third, it's too small, and these aren't equal pieces. What fraction of the dwarfs are not Grumpy? Well, there's Grumpy, and there's only one of him. Okay. So first of all, how many dwarfs do we have? Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Surprise, surprise. So 7 is our denominator. Okay, because we've got 7 altogether. And we want to know what fraction are not Grumpy. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 are not grumpy. So 6 out of the 7 are not grumpy. Okay, so 6/7. And finally, what is half of 72? Okay. Now that's the same as saying 72 over 2 or 72 divided by 2. So half of 72. Well, let's think about that like this. Let's split this number into two nicer numbers, just like we were doing last week with the division. So if we split it into 40 and 32, half of 40 is 20, half of 32 is 16. So altogether, 36. Okay. Right. Let's have a remind ourselves then about the key language. So there's our fraction. In this case, it's 1/4. If something's over 4, then it's a quarter. The top number, oh, sorry, let's start with the bottom number. My apologies. I've forgotten which way we'd animated this. So the bottom number, the 4, we call that the denominator. And it tells us how many equal parts there are. I cannot emphasize that enough. How many equal parts? And then the numerator on top, that tells us how many parts we're using, how many parts we're interested in, how many parts have been shaded, and so on. Okay. So let's have a look. First of all, remember, we need to split it. If it's quarters, then it needs to be 4 equal parts. Is this bar split into 4 equal parts? No, it's not. Now it is. So we've got 4 equal parts. So these are quarters. Now, what does 1/4 look like? Well, there it is. There's 1 shaded in. So that's 1/4 of this bar. But I could have put the shading there. That's still 1/4 of the bar. Doesn't matter which one. That's 1/4 of the bar. And so is that one. As long as it has been split into 4 equal pieces, and as long as we only shade one of them, then that is 1/4. Right. 4 questions here, or 4 parts of the question. Which of these shows 1/4? And how do you know? Pause the video and have a think. Right. A, does this show a quarter? Well, we've got 4 parts and they look equal. So we've got 4 equal parts and we've shaded one of them. So yes, that is a quarter. B, is this a quarter? Well, we've got 4 stars, but they're not equal. They are not the same size. So no, this is not a quarter. It is 1 out of the 4, but it's not a fraction. It's not a quarter because they are not equal sizes. What about C? Now, this is an interesting one because if we look at these rectangles here, there are 4 of them. And we've shaded part of this and part of this. If we actually bring those two together, you can see that the whole of that rectangle is shaded and these 3 are not. But they are all the same size. So we've got 4 equal size rectangles. And now we've moved our shading around a little bit. We can see that the whole of that one is shaded and these 3 are not. So yes, that is a quarter. And finally, what about D? Is this a quarter? Well, no. For obvious reasons, I hope, because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. So it can't be a quarter if we've got 5 parts. Right, what about this? What fraction can you see here? Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts, and they're all equal. They're all the same size, and 2 of them are shaded. So what would that fraction look like? 5 equal parts, 2 parts shaded. So 2 out of 5 have been shaded. There you go, 2/5. 2 are shaded, so there's 2 that we're interested in out of the 5 equal parts. Right. Now, if there is a 1 as your numerator, if the top number in your fraction is a 1, then this is called a unit fraction. Okay? It's telling you what single one of those types of fractions will be. Okay, so a unit fraction. So all of these are unit fractions. It doesn't matter what the denominator is. Now, sometimes our numerator will be bigger. So in this case, we've got 2/3 or 5/4 or 6/7. And in this case, it's a non-unit fraction. So just a couple more terms, just to sneak in there to see if if we can remember them. So we've got numerator and denominator. Okay, we've got the fraction bar, and then we've got unit fractions and non-unit fractions. There's some more non-unit fractions where the numerator is not 1. Right, a few for you to try now. Pause the video and have a go at these questions. Right, here are our answers. Please remember to mark your own work before you upload it onto Tapestry. Question 1, well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. One of them is shaded, 1/5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. 3 of them are shaded, so 3/5, 3/5. 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. 3 of them are shaded, 3/4. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts. 4 of them are shaded, 4/7. Question 2, a little bit of shading for you. The pictures were all equal parts. So A, there were 6 equal parts to match our denominator, and 1 of them needs to be shaded. On this one, there are 6 equal parts, but 5 of them need to be shaded. It doesn't have to be the same 5, and it doesn't have to be the same 1, but as long as you've shaded 1 part and 5 parts, then you're correct. C has been split into 8 equal columns, and you need to shade 5 of them. Excuse me. It can be any 5 you like, as long as you shaded 5. And finally on D, we have got 8 equal dots, equal circles, and you're supposed to shade 5 of them. Again, any 5 you like, as long as you've shaded 5. Number 3, circle the unit fractions. Now, the unit fractions, remember, are those where 1 is your numerator. So 1, 2, 3 of them have a 1 as a numerator, so they're the unit fractions. And that's your explanation. How do you know? Because they have 1 as their numerator. Number 4 is tick the shapes with 1/3 shaded. So look through the shapes. Which ones have been split into 3 equal parts? And which ones have just 1 thing shaded? Well, if we look at A, there's 4 parts. That's no use. B, there are 3 parts, but they're not equal. C, yes, 3 equal parts with 1 shaded. So C is a yes. D, 3 equal parts, 1 shaded. So D is a yes. E, 3 equal parts, 1 shaded. So E is a yes. F, 3 equal parts, but 2 are shaded. So that's no good. And G, 4 equal parts, and 1 shaded. So that's not thirds either. And then finally, complete the sentences to describe the shapes with 1/3 shaded. So if it is a 1/3, you're looking for 3 equal parts. You're looking for 1 out of those 3 to be shaded. And so 1/3 of the shape is shaded. Okay. As I said, please make sure you mark this work before you upload it, so I can see just how well you did. Right. Now, locating fractions on a number line. So we've got 0 here, and we've got 1 or a whole here. So where would 2/5 be? Well, we've split our number line into 5 equal pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So the whole, and then we've split it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal pieces. There's 1/5. 1 step in would be 1/5. 2 steps in would be 2/5. 3 steps in, 4 steps in, and then 5 steps along gets us to 5/5. And you can see 5/5 is the same as a whole one. Anytime the numerator and the denominator are the same number, then you've got a whole one. Whether it's 2/2, 4/4, 7/7, 9/9, 126/126. It doesn't matter. If the numerator and the denominator are the same, then it is a whole one. Okay, so there's our 2/5. Have a think about these. We've got 0 at this end, a whole one at this end. Where would 4/5, 3/7, and 1/3 land? Pause the video, have a think. Okay, well, 4/5, we've split our number line into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal pieces. 4/5 will be on marker number 4. Number 2 is split into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 equal pieces. So that will be on marker number 3. And number 3, 1, 2, 3 equal pieces. So 1/3 will be our first marker. Well done if you've got those. What about this one? 0 and a whole one. And we're looking for a half. But we've not split our number line into 2 equal pieces. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal pieces. So we've got 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, 6, and 6 6. So where's a half? Well, we know a half is halfway from 0 to 1. Okay, so it's there. And one way of working this out is to say that 3 is half of 6. Another way is if we divide 3 by 3, we get 1. If we divide 6 by 3, we get 2. 1/2. Okay, so 3, 6 is the same as, it's equivalent, and that word will come back in another lesson. Equivalent, meaning the same as or equal to. Okay, so 1/2 is the same as 3, 6. So it's that mark in the middle. Which one of these is the same as a half? Have a think. We've got 6/10, 21/42, 49/100, and 18/37. Which one is equivalent to a half? Well, it's the 21/42. The reason being is the denominator is exactly double the numerator. If we double 6, we get 12. So that one is no good. If we double 49, we get 98. So that's no good. And if we double 18, we get 36. That's no good. But if we double 21, we get 42. So that is equivalent. It is the same as 1/2. Okay, so on these number lines, just pay attention because we've got a 0 here and a whole one here. On the second one, we've got 0 here. 1 is in the middle and 2 is at the end of our number line. And on the final one, 0 here and 1 here. Can you find where a half, and 7/7 are on those number lines? Pause, have a go. Okay. So on the first one, it's halfway. Okay. The second one, though, we need to pay attention. The 1 is here. So there's our 0 to 1 number line. So on this one, half is here because our number line is different to the first one. And then 7/7 all the way at the end because our numerator and our denominator are the same. So it's the same as 1. It's the same as a whole one. Right. What fraction here is green? Think about how many you've got all together and how many are green. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all together. So our denominator is 5. 3 of them are green. So it's 3 out of a total of 5 gives us 3/5. What fraction are blue? Well, we've still got 5 of them, but this time it's 2 out of the 5. So 2/5. Okay. Right. 3 questions for you. Have a think. Pause the video. Right. The first one, what fraction are yellow? Well, we've got 3 all together, so it's 2 out of 3. 2/3. What fraction are not red? Well, our denominator will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our denominator will be 6. But how many are not red? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5, 6 are not red. And what fraction are white? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 all together. And 3 out of 8. 3 out of 8 are white. So 3/8. Right, what about this one? Is more or less than 1/4 shaded? And how do you know? Well, we know that for it to be a quarter, it needs to be 4 equal pieces. And these are not equal pieces. This is quite a big piece. So this is more than a quarter. And we can show you that by splitting this up. So there's a whole into 4 parts. They're all the same size. But you can see that if we put the same size on there, then this red bit is quite a bit bigger. So this is more than a quarter. Okay, so it's larger than the other 3 parts. Right, some questions for you now to see if you've been paying attention and understand. Pause the video and have a go at these. Okay, once again, mark your answers, but draw an arrow to show the position of the fractions on the number line. Well, the quarter, we've got 4 equal pieces, so it's just that first marker. So there's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. On B, 3/5, again, 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5. So there's 5 equal pieces. On C, well, we'll split it into 4, but we can see where the halfway mark is. It's there on marker number 2. And on D, sorry about that. We've got 6 sections, but if you look, there's 3 larger markers. So our third comes up on the first marker there, 1/3. Number 6, draw an arrow to show 5/5. Well, this should be a nice easy one because the numerator and denominator are the same, and we know what that means. If they're the same, then it's the same as a whole one. So we just put our marker there on 1. What do you notice? Well, I've noticed that my numerator and denominator are the same. Okay. Right, number 7, 4 different ways of showing me 3/4. Now, these are just some examples. You might show me a shape like that. So I've got 4 equal squares with 3 of them are shaded. Here we've got 4 equal triangles with 3 of them shaded. Here, I've shown 3/4 on a number line. Okay. There are going to be lots of other different representations as well. As long as you have shown 4 things that are equal in size and you've shaded 3 of them, then you've got your mark. And then finally, number 8, Amir has drawn some shapes. What fraction are the shapes of triangles? Well, first of all, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shapes. So 7 is going to be our denominator. What fraction are triangles? Well, only one of them is a triangle. So 1 out of 7, 1/7. What fraction are squares? Now, I will be honest, the angle I was looking at the image, I saw one of these, first of all, as a rectangle, not as a square. But I am pretty sure that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 squares out of 7. So 4/7. If you've got 3/7, I do understand. Because on my screen, the pink one looks a little bit rectangular. So, but 4/7, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 7. What fraction have 4 sides? Well, the squares and the rectangles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them have 4 sides. So it's 6 out of 7. And then finally, draw some shapes to match this description. 1/5 are squares, 2/5 are triangles, and 3/5 have more than 3 sides. Well, straight away, you know you've got to draw 5 shapes because that's your denominator. So whatever else you've done, you should have drawn 5 shapes. One of those shapes should be a square. So here's my square. 2 of them should be triangles. And 3 of them should have more than 3 sides. So I've just done 2 rectangles there. So together with my square, I've got 3 shapes there with more than 3 sides. So that answers the question. But as long as you have got 5 shapes, 1 of them is a square, 2 of them are triangles, and the remaining shapes have got more than 3 sides, then you are correct. Okay? Well done today, guys. That is the end of today's lesson. Stay safe, look after those around you, and I will see you all very, very soon.